Right. Another important thing is to understand that these people, they have maybe not a background where they have intellectual university education. So how do they actually get work when they're not educated? I'll tell you how. What they do is they blackmail somebody who can do the work. It's a little bit like spies do, but it's another sort of extortion, right? So actually what they do is they blackmail somebody, maybe sometimes on kind of war affairs, or if they have been refugee blackmail, or if they have been pedophiles, whatever. So what they do is they blackmail somebody, get them to do the work that they can do, and then they go to work with their stolen work. You got it? Another thing I found out is that if I give you a profile of the photographer, the person I named looked like it could be a person like VG, right? Just that VG escaped. Maybe he got too close to some police, capture. The person I know was a boxer. He gave me, when I was a kid, an uppercut. He liked to box kids, with tendency to be like he liked to be violent to kids, right? And the uppercut was so severe that I actually got like a headache thing, right? I was a child. He also kind of, you could say, rented out kids for very, very dangerous extortion work, as I said, stand in a film with a wild horse, right? So basically he was trying to kill children, right? Also, another strange story, I can't really go in details because I can't verify, but he was, if you take a stand-in, there will be one you maybe know who is, right? But there's another one doing the work. So you might have two persons under the same sport name, right? You maybe have one you know who is, and then you have another person doing the sport work. Because you think that Olympic Games or WM, that's a sort of clean sport. You know, of course, of doping. I know too of doping, right? The problem is that Olympic Games or WM is a media-driven thing. It's not like some, sports people are joined together and inviting the media to be, spreading the good words of Olympic Games. That's bullshit. It's a media-run thing. If the media wasn't there, there wouldn't be any Olympic Games. And that's probably why it's also, sorry to say this, but Olympic Games is a little out-fashioned. They don't have like gamblers, PC gamblers sports degree in it. So basically, new generation don't want to look at this, right? So in a way, you could say that Olympic Games is like a dinosaur. It's kind of dead, Anyway, about another person, the detective or from Australia, the picture of the commercial photographer and the other person from the Tron case, which I could connect to the Beumont case, the person with the soft hat that I call all L, right? He's actually a person that is connected to this gold, probably some kind of gold transfer crime. So he might be connected in New York. They killed a Danish ambassador married to a German woman. He was killed in a case called the Scotsboro Sanatorium case, right? But actually it was something else. It was a sort of private ground with it's a strange house, but it has almost a cell. It had an underground with some cell doors almost. And those two people lived in a double room, almost looking like a hotel suite, but I tell you it wasn't, right? So basically the person around these people were all criminals, but some of them didn't know what was going on. And this person, I call Al, who owned that house, he was a person that could stand on his altan shooting a rifle off to scare away a bird. he was on the weapon, right? He could stand up on his Elting like some kind of Hussein and shoot down a bird he didn't like. Inside a fucking town, close to a railway station, right? That type, right? And my relationship with this guy was that, you know, I was a little bit observant when I was a kid because I wasn't belonging there. And I you know, if I had a chance, I looked into the suitcases and stuff because I wanted to know. I found a passport called something about Ocean or something. I write down. But anyway, they had like British passports, right? So basically, that person, he was interested in smoking cigars, dressing like a Harlem person, and he was also into Agatha Christie. So he was like an old man reading crime books, which is itself interesting. And I had a sort of communication with him that he gave me one of Agatha Christie's crime books as a child to read it. And then when I came, after we were on holidays at that place, right? And when we came again, I was reporting on the Agatha Christie book. And that might also mean that I was a target because he knew I was not one of them. And they played classical music and they played cricket like the British, right? But I don't think they were British, but whether, you know. And so I grew up with some very old people that were very powerful and still are, because they are still connected. But I learned, if you're looking at some of the Nazis, for example, Ilse Koch, or if you look at the IRA, there's a connection between IRA and Nazis, right? Ilse Koch were actually criminalized by her own, her own Nazi friends. And there's also some of the IRA people that the IRA didn't like. They were simply too grim, too mean, you know. And there will always be, whatever crime you're looking at, the mobsters, if you look at pedophiles, there will always be somebody that the other criminals don't like. And that's some of the people I met in my life. They are the people that nobody likes, right? They explore kids. They might kill kids. They might you cannot trust them no matter who you are. So when I look back at my life, I can easily explain why it went wrong, because it was not meant to be good. It was, if I had stayed in you could say, if I belonged to Australia or if I belonged to the United States, if I had the chance, I wouldn't have lost my child. I wouldn't have been in the position where no matter what I did in peacemaking Northern Ireland, in trying to get we got the DDR wall down, I would never have been let down. If I was in a proper country, Denmark is not a proper country. So if I had been in a place where they actually, I'm not saying that these things can't happen other places, but basically one of the things is that it's so corrupted. There's also another person I might be identifying is a policeman, a very well vicious policeman from Australia, who actually was caught by police. He's famous, corrupted, and famous. I think he killed a young woman, and there's some YouTube about him. He might also be in the case, right? So you've got very unluckily corrupted police. You've got some media crime connected mobsters and terrorism, and that's why it gets so complicated. So you maybe have, if we're talking about the murder at the Scottsboro Cemetery, we also have some children's murder. Scottsboro might indicate that this is not the first time they killed a diplomat. If you talk about Chris Stevenson, I think that the 13 Hours and Susanna Bier got very, very close to the data, which they couldn't be if they didn't know anything. But who was behind it? And I also say that some of the big, the trouble that in some of the other cases, if they use this technique of isolating people, psychic terror them, to try and make them act stupid, that's how they do it. So, it's like a massive bully. And as long as they radicalization, they try and bring you in a state of mind where you can't see any kind of hope, where you can't figure out what to do. So in a way you could say that that's the same method they're using in terror. It's like bullies making one person to act out, and then they go, oh, you can see he's already, and whether if they could connect them to later terrorism, I don't know, but likely.